Today on Sweet Life of a Designer, I am going to show you guys or give you access to a video that originally we had done for Ink Club. Now, one of the interesting things about being a designer, owning businesses, is that you have things that just don't work. They fail. And one of those things for me was Ink Club. So Ink Club was a crafting membership that we tried to create, and it went on for about a year and a half as we tried it on different platforms. We tried it in an app format, we tried it in Kajabi, and it just never took off the way I really wanted it to. It did okay, but not enough to make me keep it going. So this is a project that you will hear McKenna reference in our photo shoot.
Did you see my All Things Silhouette class, Karina?
I did not get to
I kind of did one of your projects.
Even better!
I did, your watercolor swimsuit one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that's what I did.
That's awesome!
Yeah. And I'm actually doing it for I'm doing a Christmas girls' night with my whole neighborhood.
Oh, fun!
And we're doing that too.
Nice.
So I was like,
It's such a great project,
It's such
isn't
a
it?
fun, different project. And I was like, well, to be honest, Karina came up with it.
And so this was a popular enough project that I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna share it with everyone on YouTube, and you guys can check it out and see if it's a project you wanna do. So without further ado, here we go. Today we are going to do a watercolor together, but I want to talk to you guys really about setting up this watercolor. So I actually have been wanting to do a series of watercolors for one of my mud rooms that goes out to our backyard. And I wanted to do a vintage swimming suit. So that's why I'm going to do this with you today, because it's something I'm actually using. But I wanted to show you how I cheat. And it's not even real cheating. That's why I love it so much. So many people think that you have to just be a phenomenal artist to be a designer or to do watercolors or to be a painter, when the truth is there are some ways to get around it. So I have given you guys a file. It is an SVG file. So if you want to cut out a swimsuit with me, I've got one that goes in, that gives the bust line, and one that doesn't. And I've given you two different sizes, but you can size up or down based on the size of watercolor paper you're using. I am doing a 20 by 30, so you can see it's very big. I'm gonna show you how I measured it out so that you can measure out what you're gonna do. So I didn't wanna do one big swimsuit. I wanted to do repetitive swimsuit because I knew that I could make it really fun. So I'm using this as my template, okay? So if you have a chance to do this, you can do this with me with this, or you can cut out any shape you already have on your Silhouette machine. Any shape that you've purchased, you can cut out and use as a template. How cool is that, right? So if some of you are like, I want to do a boat, or I would love to do a flower, or I want to do a circle, like if you just do a circle and then you did hand painting to show something cute inside of it. There are so many ways to do what I'm about to show you how to do, and I hope you take advantage of it because repetition is what makes this project fantastic, okay? So I am using gouache today, and I'm gonna show you how to measure things out. You do not have to do something 20 by 30, which by the way, I couldn't find watercolor paper in this size. It was more like 35 by 45 or something crazy. So I cut it down because the frame that I have is 20 by 30. So one of the things I would really recommend to you as you're starting to do some of your own paints or you're doing painting with kids is to, if you're gonna hang it up, find the frame first. Figure out what size you're doing. If you're doing 8 by 10, like an 8 by 10 frame, get an 8 by 10 watercolor paper, and you can even make this tinier, and you can do multiples, or you could just do one in the center, or you could do 3, or you could do 6, or you could do 4. The point is, sky's the limit on how you do this. I'm gonna show you a really big one so I can do multiples of these, so I can show you lots of different ways I'm gonna watercolor this. But the truth is, however you want to do this, do it. Like if you only have 8.5 by 11 watercolor paper right now, don't go buy a big one if you don't want to. Just do a set of 4 in the middle of this and just cut your paper into squares, okay? Super easy. All right, I'm gonna show you how I measured this out. Okay, let's talk about proportions. So I have a bigger silhouette here that I'm showing you.
So because I wanted an edge and because I wanted multiples, I'm gonna do 4 times 4, so 16 in total. Okay, so this is what I did. I didn't know how many of these I was gonna do. And if you can't see my pencil line, I'm gonna pull this up really close so you can see the pencil line here. So what I did was I decided to put an edge on it. So I did a 3-inch edge, and I'm just using my quilting ruler here. And I just scored it off with a pencil. Because you guys, if you have a good eraser, you should just be able to erase all your lines when you're done. The next thing I did was I did the 3-inch all the way around. I then cut it in half and did halfway here and halfway here. So for me, that was gonna be easy because it was 24 inches, and I believe this one was, let's just look, it's 14 inches. So I knew the half point was 7 inches and the halfway point was 12 inches, okay? And then after that, I was like, I'm gonna divide it again in half. So I just kept dividing it in half. I didn't actually know what my number was gonna be with the number here. I was just making lines so I could build up a grid, okay? So because I built up that grid, I can do this a couple of different ways. So I can use the squares within the lines and center it to do my pieces. Or if I wanted more, I could, if I wanted 6, for example, I could center these and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually 5, not 6, but 5, and I could center them on the lines if I wanted more. Does that make sense? So it's not like I was making these squares thinking, oh, I'm gonna make sure. No, I just was like, I'm gonna choose the center, and then the center of those, just so I could see a grid line. These aren't gonna be exactly this, and I'm gonna show you that here in a second. It's not gonna be exactly this. So I want you to feel like whatever your grid is, you're good. Now, so for example, if you have, say your paper is just an 8.5 by 11, so it's like this, what I would do is just cut it in half like this, and I would do 4 on either side. You're just using this as a way to measure. Don't get crazy. Don't feel like you have to, on your 8.5 by 11, do a 3-inch border. No, 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 no. Just cut it in half like this, okay? And if you want more, cut it again. And you can do the smaller one if you want, or you can even make it way smaller, okay? So here is the cool thing. So here's my template. Usually I draw really, really lightly, but because I want to be showing you how I'm doing this, I'm gonna draw a little bit heavier handed so that you can see where my lines are. All right, so I have the decision between 4 or 5. I actually think I might do 5 and have 20. And the reason is because I like the idea of more. I kind of want more. I want to be a little bit heavy-handed. So I'm going to just center this piece, and I'm gonna draw an outline. And this is on 64-inch cardstock paper, and I'm just going to copy my outline. Now, you're gonna see that not every one of these is going to look the same. Now you could if you wanted to. If you wanted to make this all the same, you could, but you don't have to, and you're gonna see that I'm not going to. Okay, so there's my first one. We'll switch it up for number 2 here, and I'm gonna use that line again, and go ahead and draw this. So I'm going to finish out. Notice I'm not getting crazy about like where it's landing either. I'm just using the template and drawing it. It's gonna be imperfect. It's art, you guys, so it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. See, I could have been like, oh, I gotta line this up too. No, I'm not doing that. Too lazy for that. I am doing every other right now. I might change that up in a bit, but you can see I'm just tracing. Okay, so I'm gonna finish tracing these. Hopefully you have a chance, if you're doing this project with me, for you to do the same. Because art, my goal is to make it so that art feels simple to you, that you can figure out ways to make art a simpler, fun, creative way to express yourself. And by the way, this is a great project for teenagers and tweens and kids, because many times their self-esteem is not in a great place, especially during some of those years, and they feel like people are telling them they're not very good at things or whatever. And if you can give them a piece of art, something they can do, and they look at and they go, whoa, that kind of looks professional. gosh, you guys, that changes everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up, and I'm gonna show you how I change it up. And for you or for anybody else who feels like you're not creative or you can't do something on your own, you guys, I am a designer and I use this method. So feel free, this is like an absolute cheat that is acceptable. It's a totally acceptable cheat, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, draw the rest of these out, and then I'm gonna show you how I change these up. Okay, let's talk about how you can change these. You'll notice I'm choosing a retro swimsuit to work with. But once again, look, all the lines are done. And in fact, within this, at this point, everything is where it needs to be. You can erase out all of these lines if you're worried about watercolor getting on it, okay? I'm gonna finish erasing them out later. And then you're actually not supposed to sweep it like that. You're supposed to blow on it. But for the sake of me getting this done really quick, I just want to show you guys how to make this fun. Okay, so I'm doing a retro bathing suit. So let's change it up a little bit, okay? So first of all, what I like about a retro swimming suit is it's lots of stars and dots and stripes. So there are ways to deal with that. And also changing the silhouette. So the first thing is, let's just pretend that like you really feel uncomfortable drawing. So let's just keep it really simple. So I'm going to close up the bust line and basically create this long bottom piece, okay? Super easy, right? And all I'm gonna do now is add a stripe to this, but I'm gonna do a stripe that goes like this, okay? And I'm gonna do it all the way down, and that's it. I think you can handle this. This is not going to be like crazy, okay? If you don't want to do a stripe like this all the way down, you could do it just like to there, and then that could be a different color down here, and this could be a different color up there, okay? That's already really simple. Or you can add something like a star or a dot. So then you can add where you want all of your dots to go, whether it's big or small. But the point is that this is something that you can do very, very easily, right? And if you wanted to wing it while you're doing your watercolor, you don't have to add all of these, okay? I usually like to know, and the reason is because very often when I'm designing, I just wanna make sure I don't have two dots right next to each other, okay? The other thing we can do is we can change the top here, okay? So just because we drew this top doesn't mean we actually have to go with this top. So I'm actually gonna erase away some of the top, and very often these retro suits have like a closed top, right? So I'm not gonna make this perfect. I'm just gonna actually put it over here to the side and bring this around, and we're gonna do a tie off, okay? Like that. Still see how I'm using that line? And I'm gonna erase away the rest of these lines. Okay, and that's it. And if you wanted this one to be less straight, you could just bow it, erase out your line. You're just basically creating a nice line for you to watercolor in. I know all of you can color in the lines if you want to, although, by the way, you don't have to. And then that is a done piece, okay? So what if I go to the next one and I'm like, oh, what if we do a bikini? So I'm gonna cut it off here, and maybe it's gonna be a high-waisted bikini, so I'm gonna close it here, and I go ahead and I erase away and create a bikini. So now I can make decisions. Do I want to do a stripe all the way across? Like a fat stripe? Great, okay. And maybe I don't know, maybe I'm just gonna keep it all a stripe. But you can see how this is gonna come together really quickly, because where this is gonna really be awesome is when we start adding color to it. Okay, let's do one more just because we can. Let's do this one right here. Just because I want to keep showing you, like, there are so many things you can do with this. So say we want to do something with a skirt, okay? And maybe I even want the skirt to go out more, okay? I'm just gonna change the silhouette a little bit, okay? I'm gonna do a pleated skirt here, but I still want this bathing suit area, so maybe I'm going to bring that skirt around like this, okay? I'm still using the lines here of this. So now we've got a skirt, and I can erase away some of these lines, which is gonna help, so that I can then have this skirt shape, okay? And once again, look, you don't have to do what is already here. We could add a button here. We could change this line right here, right? Or maybe we keep it and we add buttons. I really recommend you can go online and look at retro swimsuits. You'll see it's a lot of this shape with like stripes and all that other good stuff. And maybe I want to change this line right here. I'm going to do it a little bit softer, okay? Don't feel like you are stuck to the template. Change it up if you want. And actually, I'm going to add like a second, like, so this can be a different color maybe, because all those little details make it fun. Does that make sense? And I hope you have fun with it. So I'm gonna finish drawing out the rest and just changing it up. I'm gonna go look online. I'm gonna go look at retro swimsuits to get me ideas about cool ways to do it. Then you're going to choose a color scheme. So we're gonna talk about that next. I'm gonna go ahead and finish drawing this out, and then I'm gonna show you how I start to watercolor it. Okay, can you see here that I have drawn out lots of examples? Hopefully that helps you a little bit so you can kind of see. One of the things I want to emphasize to you, especially if you're doing a smaller palette and you're just doing like 4, that's okay. Like, I've got a lot of examples here, mostly for you, but also for me because I'm doing a really big piece. So I just wanted to show you guys my color palette. I decided because in my backyard we do have a pool, and I've chosen to do all navies and turquoise blues back there, and then I have a pink back door. I wanted to do blues and reds and do variations of that pink, so I've got white here as well. This is a dark blue. And then I just thought for a little pop I would add a little yellow. Well, so it basically turned into a primary color scheme, right? Red, blue, and yellow. And so you'll notice I have tons and tons of paints, okay? I didn't use most of them. In fact, like, if I wanted to make this super colorful, I could have brought in green and purple and all this stuff, but I am using a limited palette today. One of the ways that you can become more sophisticated with your artwork is choosing to do something like a limited palette. So feel okay about that. You could be like, you know, I'm gonna do blues and purples and do a color scheme that's super cool as in freezing, like that kind of cool, or warm, not cool as in like that's legit and awesome. Or warmer and go with the reds and the pinks and the yellows and oranges. Or you can do a primary color palette like I'm doing here, okay? So this is a gouache, so that is giving me a lot of options. And I am working big here, so I have to be very, very careful that I don't just splatter water everywhere. But let's get started here. We're gonna start with a stripe because the stripe is easy, and I've decided I'm already going to do it a navy blue. I've got 2 paintbrushes here. You'll notice they're both rounded at the top. I'm gonna use the smaller one because I don't know what the heck I'm doing, okay? And here's the cool thing. I haven't totally made decisions yet. If I want to do this very nice and tight, which is what I think I'm gonna do, I'll just color in like I'm coloring in the boxes. If I wanted to make it more like doodly, or you know, like that watercolor sketchy, you could just not follow the lines. You could just paint on it. So just be okay with whatever you decide you want your look to be. I'm gonna keep mine nice and tight here. You could mix your blues if you wanted as well. And you're gonna see me just paint in the lines. Maybe you are not a paint in the lines kind of gal, and that's okay. You can do yours like super fun and sketchy. I did just do put this out and then it dried for a second, so I'm adding like kind of extra water here to make it do what I want it to do. And I'm just doing an every other stripe here. So you might say, well, Karina, how are you going to do like where all your pencil lines are? I think, so I did do some black, but I actually think for this one, I am just gonna do my blue and just make a pencil line basically with my paint. Which, by the way, if you don't do this already, you can absolutely bring in things other than gouache or watercolor into your paintings. You can bring in Sharpie markers or gel pens if you wanted to control the pen more and you didn't feel comfortable with your paintbrush, or you can get the color you wanted, that's okay. So you can see that I'm keeping this super simple. Some of these I will get more complicated with, but let me tell you the rule of thumb here. I'm gonna do probably 2 layers on everything because I want a ton of details. Now, you could just paint it the 1 layer like I'm doing right here that you see me doing, call it good and be done if you wanted to. But I like 2 layers because I like that extra little bit of detail. And you know what, I was about to paint that, but you see if I paint these 2, then I can do these up here, or I can cut it off. Actually, I'm gonna cut it off. And what I like to do is I am just gonna paint this entire row. That's probably how I'll get it started. And then that way I can make sure the colors are mixed up nicely. For those of you who are nervous about painting, hopefully this just makes you feel like, yeah, I can paint, and that it's meant to be fun. And it's meant to be, you can see how this could be a great teenager tween project, because they would totally eat this up and it would be easy, be so easy. All right, I'm gonna cut my straps off here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and create the stripe here. I didn't pencil in a stripe, but I think I want one. And then another one up here. And then I think what I'm gonna do is draw the rest of my lines with my paintbrush. All right, so I'm gonna do a little heavier, less with the water, just a little bit of water. And I'm just gonna sketch it lightly. These things do not have to touch if you don't want them to, because the closure of your eye will take care of it. And see how I'm doing it while it's wet? It will just meld into the stripes that I've already created. So this one is pretty as is, and I could leave it, but I am gonna probably come in and add even more details to it. There are some that are gonna be super detailed here, and so I will let it dry while I paint all the other pieces. Okay, let it dry, and I actually am thinking I'm gonna bring in like a light blue, one of these other blues, and I will do some kind of like fun little stripe, either in the white or on top of the blue, just to give it detail. All right, let's start the next one. I'm gonna show you how I do the next one. So you just get a feel for how I'm doing this. Let's do this one just because it's not a stripe, and I wanna start with the top. Now, I could use more blue. I think I'll use a different color of blue and probably a pink or a red. Let's do a red. We're gonna go right here. It's like not a true red, but it's got a lot of pink in it, and we'll do this for the top, and you'll see me just paint in it. If you're doing a smaller swimsuit, then feel free to use a smaller brush. That's what you're gonna want. You're gonna want a smaller brush. And I need to bring in just more water, because you can see I'm covering more ground. If you want it to be a lighter pink color, more water as well. That's the other thing you can do. Don't worry about messing up. Messing up is great. That's the nice thing about gouache or watercolor or painting in general, because it's meant to be fun. Okay, so you see that I have this bow area. I do want it in this red, but I'm gonna come in with details later for it. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and paint in it, okay? And my painting in it, it's gonna all meld together a bit. That's okay, because we're gonna come in with detailed painting because we can, but also you can leave a little bit of extra if you want to. Okay, so the bottom piece of this, I think it would be fun to do in a different color of blue. So I have 2 other blues here. I actually have more blues if I wanted, but we're gonna go with this lighter blue right here, like almost a turquoise, and bring it down here. And you can see I've drawn out my dots. So I'm gonna do my best to honor those dots. The other thing you could do if you wanted to, you can use, there's like a material that you can use to make sure you could paint over the whole thing. And then the dots, you can it'll just be like, it's clear. I'm blanking, you guys. One of you is gonna know what the name is, and you're gonna have to like tag me in the community. But you can just then paint over it and it just leaves it, and it's amazing. I don't have any of that on me right now, and that's okay. The one thing I'm gonna suggest, if you're doing it the way I'm doing, see how instead of just doing all the circles, I started painting it in. It's because I didn't want that circle to be thicker and darker. So instead, I just made sure and painted in as I was going. Okay, I finished going around the dots, and just so you know, like I love the way this looks, but if you're trying to like even out your color, you can just add more water. So super simple right there to get it going. Okay, we are going to add to the middle, and I actually think I am gonna bring the dark blue into that just so that it like brings it in. So I am going to just add it to the middle section right here. And then I am gonna let this dry, and I'm gonna go ahead and add the dark blue line to it because this is not a bikini, that's just the way it goes. And if I didn't want white there, I could add yellow later, I could add whatever else later. But once again, as I said, we're gonna bring in more colors, but I want everything to dry first. So I'm gonna keep painting, and I'll show you some snippets of what I'm painting in terms of colors so you can get some ideas for yours. But you can see how simple and beautiful this turns out, and especially when it's like a whole group of swimsuits, because you get that repetition. Okay, I have done first layer. I'm trying to give you guys a better view of all the different designs. You can do whatever designs you want. That's the fun of this. So you can see where it looks super watercolory, and you can also see where I can add more. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna actually add in all the details. I'm gonna do it with a smaller brush. So this one's a little bit thinner, but I might actually even find a smaller one in my cup over there. And I'm gonna add all sorts of little details and finish things up. You can see where I've left it open here to add more details in. And you can also see where I've kept the color palette pretty tight. I haven't gone way out. So I'm gonna finish this up. I'm gonna show you a little bit of what I'm doing in terms of details, but honestly, at this point, this should be easy for you. You should be able to, I mean, you can see I've just colored this in. This is like just coloring in the lines. And that's why I really like using the templates, because really it's all about just coloring in the lines. Okay, I want to show you, I am using a brush. I actually brought over a Sharpie as well. I wish I had multicolored Sharpies, but I don't today, so we're gonna stick to the paintbrush. And I'm just going to add little details to this to make it that much cooler. So one of the little details I'm gonna add on this one is I wanna do like a crisscross so it feels like lacy on this. The other thing you can do is you can do little outlines, or you can add patterns to anything. So just sky's the limit, you guys. Like, I want you to feel like you can do any number of things. So I'm actually going to do this and pull my paint palette over here. I'm just gonna do this in blue, and I'm just gonna do this little crisscross here. The smaller your brushes, the easier this is gonna go. If you don't wanna add details, you don't have to, but one of the things I really want to emphasize to you is that the goal here is just to add easy patterns, easy details. When we start getting to where we're like doing a lot of illustration and drawing, I actually think it takes a bit away. So like the simpler the little patterns are that we create, the actual cleaner the whole thing's design will look. So after I finish this, I'm gonna let it dry, and I'm just gonna keep moving on. I'm gonna go to every single one and see if there are any little details that need to be added that will make it that much special. And see how like that just adds a little something to this. I am gonna actually take some of the darker yellow, and you can see some of the line, but I'm gonna just add a tiny bit on just one side. I'm not gonna do every single side. I think that's a mistake sometimes we make. We get like, oh, we've gotta make it exactly perfect on every side. And I'm not gonna do that, you're gonna see that. I'm just gonna do it on one side just to give it more of an outline here. And that's it. So I'm gonna move on to the next one. It almost gives it a little bit of a shadow. And for this one mostly you see how the skirt is. I actually think it would be cute to put a little dot in the skirt, and I actually think it would be amazing to see more of that line. So I'm using a darker blue here. You can see I'm not really doing an outline here. I'm just coming in and just like really adding, and then make sure you add water to it so it blends, okay? And I'm thinking about some of the shadows here. It's not gonna be perfect. Don't get worried about that. The point is that I'm just getting that definition in. We don't want any strict lines here. We want to make sure it all blends in. And I'm probably gonna have to let that dry before I can put any kind of dot on it. And in fact, what I really want to do is we'll put that dot on the lacy bit up here so we can see how it looks. I'm just gonna add a single dot for up here. All right, you see how these small details make a huge difference? And they're fun. And if your teenager or your tween or your kid doesn't want to do the whole thing, you can do this, and then you can let them add the details with a gel pen or a paintbrush. It's so easy to get your kids involved if you want them to be doing this art with you. Okay, with this one, I have to make a decision, a hard decision. Do I want these dots filled in with a color? I don't think I do. So instead, I'm just gonna get a little more red here, and I'm going to create some of those lines that I did on the other one, just so I can get a real defined line here. That's just my preference. Don't feel like you have to do that. It might look better to be like kind of just simple and watercolored. And I'm just gonna bring in a bit of a shadow on the inside of this. The other thing I'm gonna do is I have this great bow here, and I am gonna get some darker red here, and I'm just gonna add more red here on the inside so it feels like a little bit darker. Do you see that? On the inside, okay? So it's like almost like a little bit like cleanup is what we're doing here. Okay, I have this cute little blue tunic suit. I'm gonna come back to my yellow, and I'm going to bring the yellow across. I was afraid to do this when the blue was drying because I knew they would all meld together, which happens to me sometimes. And so I just wanted to do it separately and see how that goes. And I actually think this one is pretty good, pretty cute. Since I've already done the line bit, we're gonna just come in here with a darker blue, and I'm just gonna emphasize it on either side of this like it's like a double lining. This is an opportunity, by the way, if you decide you want to, you can see how I've got it pretty flat, to add a pattern if you want. I don't think I want a pattern on this. I like that it's flat. You're always looking for a balance of pattern and flat, because if it's too patterny, your eye it'll struggle to kind of see what you want it to see, okay? All right, I'm gonna continue with this. I'm just gonna add a few more details and clean things up. You can see as I go forward, like some of these, I don't know that I wanna do much to, because I love that. I love the simplicity of that, and so I don't wanna touch it. So there are a lot of things I'll just leave, I won't even touch. And there are others that I will probably do a lot to. For example, this one, I actually plan on putting a ton of pattern in that. Okay, I finished it. I just wanted to show you what mine looks like finished. Yours, of course, is gonna be different because you're gonna use different colors, you're gonna use different textures and different pieces, but you can see really you're creating that awesome, easy stencil to give things detail. And you can see for the most part, I mean, there are a couple of patterns in there, but most of them are actually just stripes and dots, which I know you can do. And you can layer them if you want. I could continue to add more to this, but I love that watercolor look. And once again, you do not have to make yours this big. This is the frame I am using for mine. And so since I already had the frame, I knew that I just wanted to fit it to that watercolor. So I'm gonna frame it up, and it won't be as cute to be able to see it just because there's a glass on it. But hopefully you enjoyed making this with me. If you don't have time to make this month, or you wanna do it as a summer project, all you need to do is make sure and download this SVG. Make sure you remember how I did it, which will be easy for you, okay? And wait and do this in the summer months if you want, okay? If not, if you wanna make sure you have access to the video, make sure to watch it this month and do it with me this month. Kids or yourself, it's a fun project for anybody who is kind of just dabbling in art, because I've tried to make it much easier for you. Okay, hope you had a good time making this, and I'll see you in one of my other projects.
And as always, if you love what we're doing here on my channel, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel. It helps me keep going, and it helps me create new videos for you guys. Hope to see you soon.